Hi guys, so I just wanted to share my experience of the Embodiment Conference 2020. It was mind blowing, and uh, yeah, just a little bit of background. After what is it, 16 years of studying and working as a civil engineer, I sent myself back to university to study psychology, and so I'm doing a special student program where they allow me to do 3 years of psychology in one. And yeah, it's very interesting, very fascinating, but very uh, intellectual and cerebral and technical and complicated. And there's very little talk of the body and emotions. In fact, the body is never mentioned, but emotion gets a mention here and there. But yeah, that's why I love this conference so much. It's everything that's missing from that whole psychology curriculum. And so, in the space of 2 3 weeks, I learned more than I learned in a whole 3 year degree in psychology, I can say. And yeah, but very practical, useful, meaningful things that are changing me, changing my life, changing my relationships, changing how I feel inside and relate to myself and my body. So, um, yeah, I think my first introduction to embodiment or somatics was when I discovered Peter Levine's work, and I read a bit and I watched some videos, and so I started. I mean, I didn't have access to any, what do you call them, practitioners, so I was just trying it out on myself and experimenting on myself, but it never felt genuine. Not in the sense that I'm faking it, but you don't know how to access those things. It's so difficult. In his story, the way he tells it, it sounds easy, but him as a therapist, he guides that process, and other practitioners, people he trains, know how to shift people to get back in touch with those traumatic patterns in the body, in the visceral, in the nervous system, in the musculature. So yeah, I tried, but I never had much success. But I was learning and understanding, developing the conceptual framework, and yeah, and then I discovered Bessel van der Kolk and Dan Siegel and Gabo Mate and Richard Schwartz, and these are the people I was gravitated towards, and reading their books and stuff. And so when I saw the Embodiment Conference is featuring these guys, the people that I really admire and love to read, and yeah, so I said, no way I'm going to miss this one. And I had an exam the day that the conference was starting, and so yeah, I wrote my exam and then I rushed to campus. I was still on crutches at that time, so I hobbled as fast as I could to get to campus to use the Wi-Fi. And I got there just in time for the beginning of David Treleaven's session, the double-edged sword of trauma. And there's I loved that session. It was the first session and probably the most meaningful for me. And okay, there were a few, so I'll just quickly touch on the ones that um, touched me, moved me. There were so many, right? But David's was first and foremost. So yeah, I also always struggled with meditation and going within because of these patterns inside, because of the body clenching, because it hypervigilance and hyper arousal doesn't feel nice inside. And when you take your attention inside, and your mind is constantly racing and linking and thinking, and yeah, so what I liked was this exercise he did, where he asked you to clench your fist and then to try to pry open the fingers, and the fist represents you trying to protect yourself and keep safe and lock down, you know. And then he says, okay, I'm not going to, you can catch his, this exercise in the session or somewhere, but basically he said, now bring this hand to support the clenching fist, you know. And just in that feeling of support, I accessed, I felt, I connected with this other part of myself, this part that's capable of soothing and supporting and encouraging, you know. And and it was a beautiful, moving experience to feel that hand just ease up, and to know that it's not just a metaphor, but a felt metaphor that rippled through my body with care and soothing, and yeah, so beautiful. So for myself, I added another level to it, kind of to think of this child, you know, this wounded inner child, and to relate to that part of myself and to say, you know, yeah. So that was beautiful and perfect way to start the Embodiment Conference. And also he mentioned taking it slow and easy. You know, it's also Peter Levine, the core of his work is titration and to pendulate between positive memories and safe space, and you know, slowly go into the traumatic memory system and retrieve some parts of ourselves. And so yeah, now the other session, another time I got Amara Pagano's movement session, and again I was on campus, and I was using the Wi-Fi there, and so there's lots of students sitting around and walking around and all of that, and I'm on my phone and put my phone down, and now she's asking you to do movements, you know, and that self-consciousness, like people are around and they're going to look at me and think I'm weird and strange, and I am a little bit weird and strange, but yeah, discreetly trying to do the movements that, and yeah, so something about it was engaging this dynamic within this aspect of myself that's afraid of people. Like when I was younger, I had a lot of anxiety and fear, and I couldn't really even talk to people and relate to people, and stage fright, talking in front of a group of people, or yeah, it's terrifying. And so, you know, I have come a long way with that, but still there's this sense of anxiety, nervousness, or when I'm dancing, like self-consciousness. Wow. So anyway, that dynamic was now part of the movement. Like, to what extent can I completely attune? And yeah, in her session, it's one of the few sessions where I really felt a connection and attunement to the presenter, to the person. And yeah, there's something about the way she speaks, there's something about the way she moves, and her whole session felt like we were in it together, even though I couldn't see the other participants in that. And when a comment popped up, you know, she integrated it all, and yeah, you really felt held. You really felt you're in a healing space, a creative healing space. And towards the end, she asked us to become still and just listen and allow something to arise. It could be a word, it could be something, and many somethings arose for me. And but the word that came up was volatility. And that it was a bit of a surprise, like I didn't expect something like that. And together with this word volatility came a feeling, a sense of the inner child, not the inner child of myself as a frightened child. And so then that night I had a dream, and it's a part of a recurring nightmare kind of from my teens, where, I mean, when I was younger, it used to be just this terrifying dream in which you feel like you're dying, or there's some kind of specter or ghostly presence, a sinister thing that's just, and it happens quickly, but you feel like you're awake in that moment, or you're between waking and sleeping, but it feels more real than real life even. And later I came to understand what that is, but as a young person you don't understand these things. You just it's just bizarre. But the dream has kind of evolved over the years, but I'll tell the story of that another time. But like one of the dreams in the early times was, I just feel like my body is levitating, and then it's shaking, and then there's just this terror, pure terror. And anyways, but in this latest dream, I was aware of myself lying on the bed, and then some sinister presence was coming from the foot of the bed on the left hand side, and suddenly I had this tingling sensation together with the feeling of terror, but all up and down my left side. And now having the kind of conceptual framework and all of that to know what it really means and represents, I was able to allow it, and to observe it and to feel it. And so it wasn't so, it was containing the feeling of terror and the traumatic patterns, but it was different to my younger days. And so there's like this, the left side of the body and the right side of the mind, and the implicit relational, the perceptual and procedural memory systems from the earliest childhood. So like before the Embodiment Conference, I was constantly having to bring attention back to the body and relax myself. Like I'll be working, and then I remind myself, and it's unclench the jaw, unclench the shoulders, and breathe and shake it off, and then carry on. And then while I'm working, the clenching begins again, so like maybe 20, 30, 40 times a day I'm reminding myself. And I was making progress on that front. But the Embodiment Conference helped me to begin the real somatic experiencing. So after the dream and that, I started to have actual spontaneous convulsions or muscular patterns emerging. And now I knew how to allow them and how to um, just go there slowly, slowly. And I found three different patterns. So the one, when I allow it, it twists my body, and then I feel like I'm choking. And if I allow it, I would literally be unable to breathe and feel this. Um, and then I slowly breathe into that and relax out of it. And the memory, what came to mind is that growing up, I had this older cousin, who was really into WrestleMania and all these kind of things, and he used to do all the WrestleMania moves on us, the vertical suplexes and all those things. And he also used to do the chokehold. And one day he chokeholded me, and I passed out. And I woke up after a few minutes, and so I remembered that experience. And maybe or maybe not, it's that, but probably, because that's a traumatic, difficult experience in which I dissociated. And dissociation is when consciousness awareness is abstracted from the body, so that we don't have to suffer the the pain and the terror of what's happening in the body. But that pain and terror gets locked away in the musculature, in the traumatic memory system. So somatic experiencing is about allowing that depth charge to work its way out, so that it's not stuck in there. So I can really say I feel an unclenching of that, because now, together with David Treleaven's care and support and nurture and allowing this pattern out and then relaxing into it. A few times I had to do it with that one, and I can say there's a marked improvement in this sense of clenching of the body. And it's also fresh. The other one is this convulsion that came out of me. So it's like, it goes like this here, like, and then it speeds up. Like, I'm just dramatizing it now. I'm not allowing it fully. It's better when I lie down and get into this like wobbly kind of posture, where the pattern, the convulsions can happen more naturally. This is going a bit onto Bocelli's TRE, where you introduce a little bit of an instability, a little bit of a wobblishness. And but anyway, so I'm still trying to understand what this convulsion means. And there is neurological disorders in my family. My grandfather had Parkinson's. There's an uncle with multiple sclerosis, and so it's possible that this is a generational, intergenerational, neuromuscular pattern. And I do have that, actually. I've got this thing where my neck just always wants to go to the left hand side, and I have to actually keep it to the front, because there's this pulse, nervous pulse, that's pulling me that way, and it's also kind of in my hands and legs and on the left side. So there's a connection again to the left side of the body and this thing. So, but it really feels like something that happened to me and not to some ancestor. And so if I look at this convulsion, what is it telling me? What kind of movement is it telling me about that got stored as a traumatic pattern in my childhood? And it's scary. I mean, it points to sexual abuse, possibly. But I'm still in the phase of just allowing these convulsions out, and it plays out. It like goes for a few minutes, and then it slows down, and then it stops. And yeah, so sometimes I breathe into it while it's happening, or slow it down, or stop it in the midst of it. Other times I just let it play out its pattern. And yeah, we see where that goes to. And then the third one, what is the third one? I can't remember the third one. But anyways, yeah, I think the third one is that nightmare dream and the sensation of someone at the foot of the bed, or something to do with the left hand side, that's kind of terrifying. And the memory associated with that, what comes to mind is that when I was really small, my mom used to tell me that if you sleep on your left hand side, the devil whispers into your ear. And so I remember when I was small and falling asleep, really being terrified of this thing. And so there's always that connotation of this religious Islamic connotation and the devil and that kind of stuff. And sleep, so I can see that it might have something to do with that. And yeah, the nightmares did have this connotation of the religious and the Islamic aspect and the devil and that kind of thing. But yeah, Embodiment Conference 2020 has taken me to these places, and given me tools and practical, meaningful exercises and a way to hold it and a way to support and to soothe. And so the last one, or two more, but I'll go through these ones quickly. There was Artie Wu's presentation about our soothing and coping mechanisms and strategies, and how to become a bit smarter, wiser about, are they working for me? Are they serving me? That one is a work in progress, because really to go to these difficult places, I find that often it brings up so much for me. There's such an intensity that I just have to smoke and smoke and smoke, and so I like tranquilize myself in order to go there, which is kind of counterproductive, because you don't want to tranquilize, you want to feel and you want to express and all that. But yeah, I feel like I need something. I mean, the shamans used to use tobacco in the ceremonial ritual space, and to create a certain distance between them and the emotional field of the people they were working with. And so yeah, but to not overdo it. Yeah, and also cannabis. So endocannabinoids have been implicated in dissociation. So I haven't talked about dissociation, but just to touch on it quickly. Okay, I did talk a bit, but when we in an inescapable traumatic abusive situation, you can't fight, you can't flee, you can't say stop. You just have to go through these painful, terrifying experiences. And yeah, so they say endocannabinoids are part of how we dissociate, and so it makes sense that something that modulates the cannabinoid system might allow for a different experience, or accessing those sensations and feelings. And yeah, so I've been using this plant medicine in a very selective and careful way to access those and to story them, to try to build the link between these sensations and feelings and the knowledge and the understanding that that comes from the left brain. And there was Richard Mote was talking about repressed emotions, and yeah, I loved that session, because very few people talk about that stuff, and he articulated it so well. And so after his session, I resolved to express my feelings a bit more, but also in a careful, limited way, because when we try to express repressed emotions, they often come out in a distorted way, or people misinterpret them, or they are not used to you behaving in a new way. But fortunately, I'm in a new town, so not a lot of people know me. So I'm in a space where I can really experiment with my personality, with my self-expression and stuff like that. So I've been doing that this year, but now I can do it a lot more consciously and a lot more carefully. And yeah, just this week I've had such meaningful interactions with people, and sharing more of myself, and feeling a bit more relaxed in relationship and conversation, to be a bit vulnerable. But vulnerability also doesn't go down so well with people, so it's not vulnerability really that I want to explore in general, like in specific with people who you trust and you want to go there, then you can be vulnerable. But like today, I went to the store and I was in the queue, and the lady serving went to serve someone on that side, and I waited patiently. She was serving the next guy also, and then that guy said, "No, serve him first." So she looked at me and she was like irritated with me, and she said something. So the old me would have just let it pass, but I took exception, like why are you being rude to me and giving me attitude? And so I put her on her place, but not in a very aggressive or angry way. And there were people around, and it was a bit of an anxious moment for me. But yeah, that's expressing anger in an appropriate way. So it was a good experience. And the day before, my friend's friend was visiting, and she we had a nice conversation, and I showed her some of my artwork, and she asked some questions, and I told the story of some of the paintings and stuff, and we just explored and went along with it, and showing this aspect, side of myself that I wouldn't ordinarily show. And it's not easy. It's like a level of intensity that I can't sustain for too long. So I'm trying to build my window of tolerance for that, and increase my social skills in that sense. And but each of the emotions have been affected. So let's explain a bit about anger. Like, if you lose touch with your anger and capacity to express your anger, then you lose touch. You lose the capacity to stand up for yourself and be assertive and protect yourself. And but joy, how do we express? Do we express our joy? I know I had to repress my joy, and there are reasons for that, but I won't go into it. I'll talk about it another time. Sadness, to when you're actually feeling sad, to be able to show that you're sad. And so that's another one, but let me leave it at that. It's already a long video. Embodiment Conference 2020. Thank you so much, guys. What a team. I've only touched on a few, and there were hundreds of presenters and so many other excellent talks. And I really encourage people. The conference is closed now, so you can't really view all the sessions, but you can purchase the different packages and bundles. So definitely check out the Embodiment Conference, and check out all the people presenters. Thank you. Bye.